Hey, what's up guys? So let's go ahead and talk about all the new and updated radar detectors that have come out over the past couple months. The last time I did this video was back in October. You can click this button up here if you want to watch that video. And since then, a bunch of new stuff has happened. We've had new radar detectors come out that I'd like to tell you about. We've got some existing detectors that have been updated in terms of new firmware updates and improvements. There's some new test results that I'd like to share with you guys. And there's also some new radar detectors that have been announced that are going to be coming out very soon, and also laser jammers that I want to go ahead and update you guys on as well. So kind of an update as far as how everything is looking across the board. We've got a lot of different manufacturers to talk about. Everybody from Uniden, Radenso, Escort, Stinger, Valentine, Net Radar, Anti-Laser. So we're going to be, again, talking about lots and lots of different companies and products and where everybody is at. So with that said, let's just start from the top. Starting off with the Uniden R1 and R3. No new firmware yet. I talked about firmware 1.31 in the last video. Uniden actually shared with me a couple days ago what they have in mind as far as the next few firmware updates and kind of things that are coming down the line in the pipeline. I don't have the exact details to share with you guys yet, but in short, they're doing a really good job of actually listening to their customer base and implementing the features that people are actually asking for. There's a big thread on RDF of like feature suggestions. What kind of stuff would you guys want in there? And let's just say that they're doing a really good job of listening to their customers, which I love because that gives us a very direct relationship with them to say, hey, I would love something new and improve it. And that's exactly what they're doing. So really cool stuff there as far as the Unidens. There's also a new hardwire cable that's coming. So for those of you guys who want a hardwired radar detector, you can use a standard power cable, or there's a new Uniden specific one, which has a mute button. So you can mute alerts, lock out alerts, change the display brightness, all that kind of stuff. And control the detector if it's hardwired rather than using the cigarette lighter. That's going to be coming out really soon. I'll put the information about that in the video description to take a look. But for those of you guys who want a hardwired Uniden cable that you can control the detector and not just power it, that's actually coming out really soon as well. Radenso is doing a lot of really cool stuff. You've got the Radenso Pro M. We took a look at it at SEMA. Basically, this is looking like an awesome radar detector, especially for you guys in Canada. It's got long-range performance close to the R3. The performance is better than the Redline EX. It detects the MRCD like the Redline EX, but it actually does a better job of MRCD detection and MRCD filtering. And so for those of you guys in Canada, definitely take a look at this. It looks like it may very well be the best windshield mount radar detector to run in Canada. So the Radenso Pro M is one that I'm really excited about. Additionally, their remote, the RCM, really good. We had a chance to see that at SEMA as well. That's going to be coming out really soon. I think that's probably going to be the best kind of all-around standalone radar detector, or well, remote mount radar detector. You've got your antennas, you've got lockouts built in, manual without requiring a phone. It's got red light camera support, great BSM filtering. It integrates directly with the ALP, so you can use it with the best laser jammer. So for those of you guys who want a standalone remote mount radar detector, that's definitely one to keep an eye on. As far as the release date for the Radensos, they were actually supposed to come out at the end of last month. There's been some delays due to some additional firmware updates that they want to make. As you guys knew from the Radenso Pro and the Radenso Pro SE, they were good detectors, but they had some bugs that never fully got sorted out, and Radenso kind of had a little bit of a reputation for buggy detectors. And so when they release these new detectors, they want to make sure that they have everything ironed out. I never expect any detector ever to be completely perfect, right? There's always updates that come down the line, but they really want to make sure that they've got a good solid launch. And that's why it's been delayed a little bit. I'll put information that they posted on RDF down in the video description about that as well, but that's something that should be coming out really soon. They already have the detectors. They're just waiting for the software update, and then they'll begin shipping and selling them. Now, as far as Escort, we've got the Redline EX. It's had a new firmware update, firmware version 1.3. 1.3 allows for BSM filtering without requiring TSR, which means you've got good BSM filtering without having to go through TSR, which has a negative impact to performance. It was supposed to be like that originally, but there was actually a bug to where BSM was tied into TSR. Firmware 1.3 fixes that, so that's no longer required. As far as some additional test results, Escort's been saying time and time again that the performance of the Redline EX should be comparable to the Redline. I tested my Redline EX. I didn't find it to be a stellar performer. In Canada, they tested it. It didn't keep up with the original Redline. In Texas, they actually tested, I think it was like 2 Redlines and 3 Redline EXs. Here's where the Redlines performed. Here's where the Redline EXs performed. There's been a whole bunch of different tests, and like we're seeing the same trend over and over and over. Now, I sent my Redline EX back because it had the KA falsing issue, which isn't actually really a big deal in practice, but the idea was if you take your detector on and off the mount, it could trigger a KA false. It was a hardware fix to put in a little bit of shielding between the mount and the and the kind of magnetic part inside the detector. In short, I sent it back to Escort, and they were actually a little bit concerned that, you know, I'd actually opened up my detector to do a teardown and look at the internals, and they were concerned that, hey, maybe me opening up the detector could have negatively impacted the results, you know? And if that's the case, well, then my results would be invalid. Like, that wouldn't be fair to you guys to share, you know, results that are incorrect. That's misleading. It wouldn't be fair to Escort to share bad results that make them look bad, you know? It would also be not cool on my part to not have everything done correctly. Now, the results that I saw from my detector that I'd opened were right in line with everybody else, but since I was sending my detector back for the magnetic mount fix, we were discussing, should we repair it or should I just get a brand new one? And I was saying I'd rather have a brand new one to see maybe I can get another detector that performs better. So I sent mine back. Escort sent me a brand new detector. I sent it out for testing when I was at SEMA. Sent it out to Open Road, who put it on a stew test. It had honestly terrible performance. The Uniden R1 was fantastic. The original Redline also did excellent. The Redline EX pretty much didn't alert till almost line of sight against the 34/7 source that we use out there, so really not good. This was with a, again, a brand new Redline that Escort knew I would definitely be testing, right? There's always concern of, like, if a manufacturer sends a tester a radar detector, oh, they could be sending a juiced unit or one that performs better than average. I guess we could probably safely say that they didn't send me a juiced unit because it was not able to keep up with that. But that was my detector. Casher1979 actually sent in his Redline EX to have Escort look at it because, again, they were saying if it doesn't perform up to par, something is wrong, we should take a look at it. So that's what he did. He sent his detector in, and they took a look at it. He sent it out to Open Road for stew testing. The R1 alerted, the Redline alerted, the Redline EX did not alert. It was a little bit different test, kind of a static one where Open Road was holding up the detector on a very, very weak Ka signal. The Redline EX was not able to pick it up at all, whereas, I mean, the Uniden was alerting before he even picked it up to the windshield. It's that sensitive, you know, and the Redline was able to pick it up too. I'll link you to the videos, you know, and the test results on the forum if you want to take a look at that. So, I don't know. Escort keeps saying that it should be performing online. There's been the only times I've ever seen it come close is the other test that it got sent out to after SEMA. It was my detector first, the stew test, and then the sent it out to the guys in New Jersey. They were able to get it to perform better. It was performing closer in line to the Magnum, but even then not able to keep up to the Redline. And I think it's kind of one of those situations where it's very terrain dependent. In some situations, yes, it'll perform better. In some situations, it'll perform worse. But the only situation I've actually seen it perform on par with the Redline is, well, when they're terrain limited and like every detector alerts in the exact same location. Other than that, yes, the Redline EX testing across the board is consistently showing that it's not able to keep up with the original Redline. And so that's what we're seeing. Escort is adamant that it should be doing it and I should send my brand new detector in again.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
I'm selling my detector. By the way, if anybody wants a Redline EX, let me know. I'm selling mine. Casher's selling his. Yeah, Redline EX stuff. Anyway, as far as new detectors, the Max 360, the Max 360C. This is a new detector that Escort is recently came out with. It's an updated version of the original Max 360. Same idea, same performance and filtering, but you can see it's been physically redesigned. And, well, it's the Max 360C. The C stands for Connected Car, and basically it just means that they've added Wi-Fi to the detector. And so if you have a Wi-Fi hotspot built into your car, it can connect to Escort Live using your car's Wi-Fi instead of going through your phone over Bluetooth. So you get all the cloud alerts over Wi-Fi. But the main benefit is the detector can, well, automatically update itself over time. So when Escort releases a new firmware update or a new red light camera database update, the detector can automatically update itself over Wi-Fi, which is something that it's not doing over Bluetooth. Escort actually did that with the original Redline, BSRDR, as a software update over Bluetooth, but now they're wanting to do it only over Wi-Fi. So if you want your detector to automatically update itself without having to take it home and plug it into your computer, the Max 360C is the first detector that's now able to do that, which I think is actually a pretty cool feature. So for those of you guys who have Wi-Fi built into your car, this is a detector that can keep itself updated for you. And it's got, you know, arrows and auto lockouts and GPS and all that kind of stuff, right? I did a whole review on it. I talked about that in more detail. I don't think it's going to be as useful as it sounds initially, but it's definitely a cool feature nonetheless. Escort's also going to be selling a wireless laser jammer that's going to be able to directly talk to the Max 360C. The new laser jammer is a wireless version of their ZR5. The ZR5 is the same laser jammer that they use in their Max 360 CI, or sorry, was it? No, Max CI and Max CI 360. They're remote mount detectors. In those detectors, the integrated laser jammers are called the Shifter Max. If it's standalone, it's called the ZR5, but otherwise same exact laser jammer, just with a different controller and interface, right? In any event, they're coming out with a wireless version of the ZR5, which they're going to be calling the ZW5. Now, what's cool about that is you install it in the front of your car, you connect it to your battery or fuse box somewhere in your engine bay, and then it can wirelessly communicate to a detector like the Max 360C, so that when you get shot with laser, your detector alerts you. You can kill your jammers from your radar detector, and the idea is now you have integrated radar and laser setup without having to drill through your firewall. So if you're leasing your car or you want maybe a less expensive installation, right, simpler install, that's going to be a really cool option. And so that's not available yet. That's going to be coming soon. And while it's not going to be as effective as the anti-laser priority based on testing that we've done from, Escort's similar stuff, the wired versions, it is really cool to have a wireless option that's still actually very capable. Yes, it can jam the Dragon Eye and a lot of the guns that you'll see on the market. So for those of you guys who want a wireless laser jammer, that's actually something coming out that I think will be pretty cool. And that will be able to directly communicate with the Max 360C, as well as some of Escort's other windshield mount detectors via an updated Bluetooth cable. For those of you guys who remember, not Bluetooth, updated power cable. For those of you guys who remember Escort Live, when they came out with Escort Live first, it was done in the power cable, right? They put the Bluetooth chip in the power cable, and then that communicated with the radar detector. Eventually, they started putting Bluetooth into the detector itself. And so this one has the ability to connect to the wireless laser jammers, but for detectors that don't have that, you can just get the wireless laser jammer power cable, and that will be kind of the interface to communicate with them. So that's how that's going to be set up. As far as Stinger, with the Stinger VIP, no new firmware updates with it. I've actually been having some issues with my Stinger. I noticed performance has been reducing over time. I was able to send Stinger some of the logs, but something that's really cool is they're actually going to be flying out, one of the engineers from the Netherlands, here into Washington, and we're going to be doing some testing together specifically to help kind of troubleshoot the Stinger and improve the performance and that kind of stuff. One thing that I've really enjoyed about Stinger is, while I still think they need work in terms of their software, and there's a lot of competitors that are coming out, like the new RCM, the new Net Radar that I'm going to be talking about in just a minute. Performance is getting a lot tougher, but they have been very direct with me and very upfront and honest, which I really appreciate, as far as issues that we've been seeing and what they can do to actually implement them. They're, again, actually flying out here so we can sit down together and be like, all right, what does it take to improve, the Stinger? Why not? If I can help contribute to that, I'm all for it. And I think that's kind of in stark contrast to what I'm seeing with Radenso and Uniden and Stinger, compared to Escort. Like, Escort really isn't even willing to acknowledge there's a problem, and they're kind of going on the offensive against anybody who's saying, hey, there's an issue here, versus all of the other manufacturers who are really taking it to heart and like working with us to improve everything for the benefit of everybody, So I'm really enjoying kind of the conversations with Stinger. We'll see kind of what happens from all that, of course, with them, and of course I hope for the best for them, just like for everybody else. But yeah, that's going to be coming either this month or next month, kind of the work there. And we'll see kind of what happens as far as firmware updates as a result of that. Next, let's talk about Net Radar. Net Radar, it's a remote radar detector designed specifically to integrate with the anti-laser priority. They have the Net Radar detector. The performance is decent, filtering's good. You've got lockouts, but they require a phone. It hasn't personally been my favorite choice for remote radar detector, just because of the way the radar and laser interface works when you have both of them there. But in any event, they're coming out with an updated version of the Net Radar, which is going to be called the Radar Dsp. Should be coming out very soon. The performance should be comparable to the Uniden R3. It should have very good BSM filtering as well. You're going to be able to do arrows if you want. If you have an existing Net Radar, for example, you're going to be able to move it to the back and use maybe the new DSP version for the front. I've been beta testing one and testing it. It's been performing well in testing, and so that's one that people are really excited about as well. Another change that's going to be coming for the Net Radar is you're going to have the option with the ALP to do a standalone radar detector. And the benefit of that is, let's say you want to buy the ALP control box and you don't want to run laser jammers. You get the ALP control box and you can plug in a Net Radar remote radar detector head and run the anti-laser priority without laser and with only radar. So for those of you guys looking for an inexpensive remote mount radar detector with no laser jammers, this I think is probably going to be a really good high-performance standalone radar detector that's not using laser jammers. And it's going to be very inexpensive as well. I think it should be cheaper than the Radenso RCM, for example. So that I think is going to be a really good option for people. Plus, if you ever want to add the laser jammer integration down the line, well, you can just get the ALP laser jammer heads and install them in your car and plug them right in. You know, with the Radenso RCM, you're going to have to get the Radenso RCM set up itself and then get the ALP control box and the laser jammer heads. With the Net Radar, because you're already using the ALP as the main CPU, you're not going to need a secondary CPU like the Radenso RCM is doing, and so it's going to be a less expensive way. Hope this isn't getting too confusing. It's going to be a less expensive way to do radar and laser, so for those of you guys who want a high performance yet inexpensive remote mount radar and laser option, I think this is going to be a very, very interesting one as well. So there's a bunch of new stuff coming as far as the Net Radar, the new Radenso remotes. Escort's got their new laser jammers coming out. So once all that stuff is released, I want to do an updated video talking specifically about all the best remote mount radar detectors, about the new laser jammers that are out on the market. Yes, the anti-laser priority is still the best laser jammer. And there's been some firmware updates to improve things. There's the new TX heads, which has been a hardware update designed specifically to improve drag and eye performance. I've talked about that before as well. So there's been some improvements to the ALP. There's the new, radar only option that's coming out to it. Oh, Valentine. There is nothing to report as far as a new V1. I hope nobody's holding their breath for a Valentine 2 or for the implementation of all the things that we saw years ago as far as new displays and, hardware interface and performance and all that kind of stuff. We did videos on that a while ago. But really what's new to report for the Valentine is actually the third-party apps. We have a number of new third-party apps and we have updates to existing ones. So starting with Yavi 1. There's been some new people who've been taking over Yavi 1 development, so development has resumed. There's been some bug fixes and improvements to it. One of the big changes that is being made is support for the V1C LE, the Bluetooth module. You see, there's two different Bluetooth modules that you can get for the Valentine 1. There's the V1C, which is Android only, and there's the V1C LE, which uses Bluetooth Low Energy, which is actually a little bit better for a variety of reasons. Originally, that was iPhone only, but Valentine has also made that now available for Android too. So the newer V1C LE is available for both iPhone and Android. However, Yavi 1 does not support V1C LE. So one of the developments going on behind the scenes with Yavi 1, which is admittedly taking quite a while because the people doing it are kind of busy, and it turns out to be quite a bit of work, is they're adding V1C LE support so that you'll be able to have one Bluetooth module which is cross-compatible with iPhone and Android, and there's some improvements to connectivity and speed and all that kind of stuff as well. So that's kind of some of the stuff that's happening with the Yavi 1. But some of the bigger stuff that's actually happening is the introduction of some new apps. One of the big ones that's being talked about right now is JBV1. This is an Android app that's being developed for the V1, which has a lot of the same functionality, like your auto lockouts, custom sweep support, all that kind of stuff like Yavi 1, but it's in very active development, and the developer's doing a really good job as far as, implementing requests and fixing bugs and adding new features and all this kind of stuff as well. It's pretty new to the market, but he's been updating things at a pretty blisteringly fast pace, so that's been fun to watch. There's also V1 Driver, which is an iPhone app. The developer of V1 Driver is now also developing it for Android, so there's now going to be an Android version of V1 Driver as well. So those of you guys who run Android, you've got Yavi 1, you've got JBV1, and you've got V1 Driver. All three of those apps are now going to be available, and they're all going to offer, a lot of functionality as far as muting and automatic GPS lockouts and all that kind of stuff. Now, I haven't been following all the nuances too closely, like with JBV1, for example, and so I posted a thread on RDF as far as, what are the differences between Yavi 1 and JBV1 and V1 Driver. And so for those of you guys who are interested in this and want more information, I'll put a link in the video description to the discussion of the differences between all the different Android apps. And there are some differences in terms of usability, features, interface, how they function, and that kind of stuff. So I'll put that link in the video description as well. Now, there's also a new iPhone app that's coming out, in addition to V1 Driver and all the development there. The new app that's coming out for the iPhone is called, V1 Radar Connect Pro. This is one that I'm a little bit less excited about just because kind of talking to the developer, he doesn't seem to really understand the nuances of, lockouts and all that kind of stuff. And it's great that he's on the forum and he's active so he can learn and we can all kind of work on this stuff together. But initially, just from my initial discussion, I'm not too excited about it. And I'm really kind of wondering, what is it going to be that makes it a better option over V1 Driver? So that's another app that's coming out as well for iPhone users, iPhone drivers, that's going to be coming out for the V1 as well. And then finally, Whistler's got 2 new radar detectors coming out. It's basically updates to the CR88 and CR93, which is their top-of-the-line windshield mount radar detectors. It's basically going to be some improvements to sensitivity on both K-band as well as on KA. And that's really it. No changes to features or filtering. It's just going to be some increased sensitivity, which is good because that's one of the primary reasons why I don't recommend Whistler radar detectors, is the performance just really isn't there. Yes, they're inexpensive, but I don't think they kind of reach the minimum criteria of what I personally would consider acceptable. Just because it's too easy for them to get owned by constant on, in tougher scenarios when you got hills and curves and trees. And flat straightaways, they're fine, like most any other radar detector, but when things get a little bit tougher, they really start to kind of show their weaknesses. And so I'm hoping that the new radar detectors provide a nice, considerable improvement to performance. The name will change. It's not going to be kind of like CR88 or CR93. Last I heard, they haven't announced what the new names are, but that's something that should be coming out soon as well, is some new radar detectors from Whistler. And when those come out, we'll get some of those, we'll send them out for testing, and we'll see how much better they perform relative to the current top of the line. So that's stuff that's new to expect as far as Whistler. So anyway, that's a look across the board as far as all the new radar detectors. We've got laser jammer stuff, we've got updates and new things coming out, etc. So that should cover everything. Let me know if you guys have any questions about anything that I've addressed or anything that I've missed that needs to be discussed. I'll put links down in the video descriptions to all the different detectors and apps and firmware updates and all that kind of stuff for more information as needed. If you haven't already subscribed, of course, definitely make sure that you subscribe so you stay up to date as I continue to release these new videos. And, as far as the giveaway, I'm doing a giveaway now as well. Giving away a whole bunch of different radar detectors and dash cams. I'll put the link to that down in the video description as well, and you guys can enter through the end of the year if you'd like some fun freebies and prizes. So that's going on now as well. So anyways, thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys have found this helpful. Happy holidays, and I'll see you guys in the next video.